The death of innocence, the death of emotions, burning of soul, burning of a sweet story. Rose, a lady, no, a witch, thirsty for blood, the lady of the darkness, the queen of the chaos. Burn, burn, burn. The sweetness, the love, the innocence was once hers, once now burnt. And he must burn to claim her. Oh, Nirvana, my sweet Nirvana.
"Where are you taking me?" Wine asked impatiently, and Jungkook just sighed, shaking his head. "That's the 50th time you asked me this," he told her. "So what am I supposed to do? You have got me blindfolded, taking me somewhere and not telling me. Are you going to push me up the hill?" She asked, sulking with a pout on her face. "Wine!" He grunted while squeezing her waist lightly. "You are an asshole," she told him, annoyed. Jungkook chuckled. "And a few minutes ago, you were milking the annoyed person's, you know?" He'd enveloped her skin as she remembered what they did on the way here. How he made her scream in the back of their car and how she's still dripping. After what Jungkook said, she kept quiet and just waited. It's been almost 2 weeks since their fight. Since then, they hadn't had any fights. Though Wine feels a little guilty of hiding the truth from him. But it's for the best, right? They come to an halt, and Wine tried to use her other senses because her sight was temporarily unavailable. Standing somewhere in the sand, the cold breeze hitting her bare skin, causing goosebumps to erupt and her dress to sway. A light smell of sand, or roses, or fire somewhere. The waves at some distance roared. The crickets sound and the night, and she could not understand what it was, but she knew they were at the beach in the middle of the night. Jungkook looked at her as she stood there barefoot. The satin red dress swayed around her taunt tan thighs. The anklet he gifted her, sitting on her ankle, screaming mine. She took the other accessories off that he gifted her the last time, but she loved this one. Lifting his gaze to the smooth skin with fresh marks, his claims resting on her neck and collarbone. The dress dip in giving him a decent outlook of her cleavage. The pendant he gifted her today resting on her neck, a rose with clipped thorns and mine engraved on the stem. The beginning of their relationship rose, but with thorns, and now no more thorns. Her brown hair waves fell on her face, and she tucked them behind her ear. The beauty stood in a ritual for sacrifice. She would sacrifice herself to him, become a heathen, and worship him as her god. Please him at any cost, make him feel loved, and all of that willingly. Standing in the circle of candles, she bounced from one foot to another, impatiently waiting. Jungkook cupped her cheek and placed a tender kiss on her lips. "Don't move, and don't take the blindfold off unless I say so," he whispered against her lips, but she was so lost at his warmth and tenderness that she didn't answer him. "Do you understand, El Sol?" he asked sternly. "Yes, sir." The answer went straight to his, and an animalistic growl escaped his mouth. She giggled at his response. He loves it when she calls him sir, and the beast inside him wants to grr until she fell in oblivion, and then when she wake up saw her again. This woman made him lose control. "I will remember to spank you for that," he whispered in her ear, and she shuddered. The deep voice makes her go crazy and wants to do things she never wants to, like jump off the plane at 5,000 feet with no parachute, just so that he would come with a parachute and make her land safely and then show her what she was doing wrong. She felt him moving around, and then everything went silent. "Take off your blindfold, Mia Cora," he told her, and she took it off hurriedly. But when she opened her eyes, she saw everything dark. Dark ocean in front of her. She turned around and her eyes widened at the scene. She was in a circle of candles, but when she looked at Jungkook, her eyes brimmed up. The great and ruthless mafia king Jeon Jungkook, who never bows to anyone, kneels in front of her and on one knee with a black velvety box in his hand and a beautiful red diamond with a gold band in it. She slapped her hand over her mouth, tears streaming down, overwhelmed. "Meanwhile, will you sacrifice yourself to me and bleed for me? Will you be my last companion till I die because you are bound to me? Will you give me all of you and in return I will give you all of me? Will you carry my hair in your belly and make me your dad? Will you give me the honor of calling you my better half? Will you marry me, baby? Will you be mine for the rest of our lives?" His voice made her breathless, every word sink in her chest and engraved on her heart. She kneeled in front of him, holding his wrist. She wiped her tears and took a deep breath before looking him in the eye. "I am already yours, Mr. Jeon Jungkook. My heart is here." She placed her hand over his heart. "I cannot even think about functioning without it. And yes, I will sacrifice myself to you, bleed for you, worship you, and be your forever companion, and carry your children. Yes, yes, I will marry you and be yours for the rest of our lives, if you promise me. If ever any of us is distant, we will resolve the issue and be back together like ever. Promise me." She breathed. Jungkook took a shaky breath, and she could swear she saw his eyes glistened. "I promise you," he tells her, and a sob mingled with laughter escaped her mouth, and both reached for each other and crashed their mouths. It was the kiss that held their promises to each other. They both broke the kiss, and Jungkook wiped the tear going down her cheek. "May I?" he asked, showing her the ring. Red diamond on it. She nodded, and he slid the heavy diamond on her finger. A wave of goosebumps erupted over her body. She observed the ring with a shaky breath and then looked at him. She kissed him, pushing him on the sand and straddling him. She broke the kiss and whispered, "I love you, Jungkook." "I love you too," he said, tucking her hair behind her ear. They went for another kiss but halted midway when they heard someone clearing their throat, one with the corner of her bottom lip as she recognized the sound. "Jiminheim, such a mood spoiler you are," he growled, and she immediately got off him. She looked around and saw everyone was there, Jimin, Jin, Lime, and Mr. Jeon. A hue of cherry erupted on her cheeks. She stood up straight with the help of Jungkook. She looked around and the candles were making a circle, but the circle was closed, no way out. "You made sure that I said yes because no was not an option?" she asked, raising her brow. "Dad, he cheated," she complained to Mr. Jeon, going over the candles to him and hugging his side with a pout. She was embarrassed about earlier and wanted to get their attention off that, so she did this drama. She's such a drama queen. Mr. Jeon wrapped his arm around her shoulder and said, "Do you want me to beat him, Iha?" he asked, playing along. She looked at Jungkook and him and shook her head in denial. Mr. Jeon laughed and she hid her face in his warmth. They had dinner together and laughed and had fun, except one thing that Jungkook didn't let wine drink, the champagne. She sucked, but no, he didn't let her. Everyone was leaving and Jungkook held her hand, strolling by the shore. The dark ocean and the sky was dreading, but the light of moon was enlightening the environment and was most importantly, cascading into Jungkook's impressive features. She stared at him as he led her. "If you stare at me like that, I will you hard," he told her, and Vine smiled. "I'm not stopping you, dear fiancé," she said, and his eyes brightened when she called him her fiancé. He shook his head and spoke, "Let's go." He pulled her to the car and Vine stopped him. "Jungkook," she spoke in a pout. "What?" She slid her arms around his neck, crushing her to him, not leaving any space, went on her tiptoes and whispered in his ear. "I told you with me here." She backed away to look at his face, biting her bottom lip. His jaw ticked and eyes became darker. Desire filled his eyes and he smashed his lips on hers. He kissed her devilishly, claiming her. At some point, he drew blood from her bottom lip and devoured the metallic taste. He hummed when the metallic taste hit his taste buds. He broke the kiss, both breathing heavily. "You want to be in open, my dirty girl?" he asked, and Vine nodded. He smirked and backed away, and started walking in another direction. Vine became confused. She followed him, but he increased his pace. Vine called him, but he didn't turn around. Vine had to jog to keep up with him, and he started running. She called him, laughing. "Are we playing catch?" He didn't answer, and Vine ran after him. Soon she lost him. It was dark, so dark. She called his name, but he didn't appear. She looked back and realized they came too far and she might have lost. "Jungkook, come on," she yelled in case he was far. But he was hiding, watching her, ravishing her curiosity and chase. She walked further to find him, but didn't find him. Slowly, the adrenaline started rushing, causing her to gulp. "Look, it is not funny. Come out." She yelled again, but met with silence again. Slowly, she started walking further. Except for the sound of crickets, another sound broke into the atmosphere. A foot sound of tap, tap, tap. The sound of someone walking. A cold sweat broke out when she felt being watched. It's been so long since she felt this way. Only Jungkook gave her this feeling when he used to stalk her. She turned around but found no one. Another sound from her right, and her ears strained. She wiped her head to her right, and still dark, empty space. She inspected the area but found nothing. She turned around and jumped back, but was smashed to something hard. She gasped. Her hair was pulled back by a harsh grip, making her yelp at the pull. She opened her eyes to see her magnificent man staring at her with desire and adoration in his eyes. Vine's chest heaved, grazing with his hard one. Her lips parted in her arousal. Her legs almost buckled, but he was holding her firmly by her waist, so she didn't fall. He moved his hand over her ass, giving a smack before massaging it. Vine was too lost in the arousal. He picked her bridal style and took her forward. She hid her face in his neck, grazing her nose and giving kitten licks, tugging and pulling on his skin. He let out an approval growl, and she chuckled. Suddenly she was in the air. Jungkook was not holding her. She was about to fall, but her hit the soft material before bouncing on it. She opened her eyes and looked around. A mattress, but wait, a mattress? It was on the metal bed. White metal bed and white mattress was glowing under the moonlight, and the view in front of the haunting ocean, glowing with the sparks of moonlight. And then there was this man, standing, opening his shirt button. His coat was already on the corner of the bed. He took his shirt off, and the view was worth getting laid 1,000,000 times. The silhouette of his perfect figure was making her wild, from head to waist, all perfection, and the rest hidden in his clothes. To carry on with this scene, go to my Instagram, link in the description. Beautiful, he praised her, and she purred. Too spent to talk, he pulled her in his arms and stroked the side of her face. He grabbed her hand and admired the emerald on her ring finger. Did you like it? He asked, and she opened her hooded eyes. She followed his gaze and spoke. I love it, she whispered. That's my mom's, he told her. The emotions welled up in her eyes, and the tears started flowing down her cheeks. Jungkook cupped her cheek and asked, What's wrong, little soul? She shook her head. Hey, you know that you can talk to me whatever it is, he told her, caressing her cheeks. I'm just overwhelmed. You, me, these mind-blowing moments, and then you gave me your mom's ring. I I don't know, I just don't know, she told him, hiding her face in the crook of his neck. It's all right, he told her, rubbing her back. How, how could you? How could you hide such a thing from me? Answer me, Jungkook. Why don't come near me.